It's great to be in Kentucky, a freedom state if there ever was one. They couldn't wait to start their own commonwealth once the revolution was over. Maysville in particular is quite historic, as I found out in my research. One of the founding members of this community was Daniel Boone. He was a tavern owner, barkeep. You gotta love that. One of the founders of Kentucky and one of the first representatives in Congress, which was the second United States Congress, is a man named Alexander Orr, also from Maysville. And it was not too far from here where Harriet Beecher Stowe witnessed a slave auction. And she wrote about it later on in Uncle Tom's Cabin. Maysville in particular in Kentucky overall is steeped with freedom because the people here know how important it is to their prosperity. And that's one of the things that we need to bring back to America, is prosperity. There's two components to prosperity. One of them is freedom, which we're seeking all the time. Freedom from regulation, particularly. The other component is peace, and being able to have that commerce with the other states and other countries of the world. And that's why we've decided to, one of the reasons we've decided to make this campaign about stopping all war. I'm not just talking about sending people overseas to fight wars that are kind of unnecessary. I'm talking about the wars we have domestically here at home. I mean, we've been fighting the war on poverty since the Johnson administration. We still got poor people. We've been fighting the war on ignorance since the Carter administration, and our children still can't read. And we've been fighting the war on drugs for how long now? And all we've done is build huge criminal enterprises because we won't let people medicate themselves. I mean, our whole rhetoric has become about war. You listen to the president, there's war on this and a war on that, and if you don't agree with him, then you're an enemy combatant. Our whole society has become steeped in war. And we got to stop it, because you can't be prosperous during a time of war. Your resources, and your most precious resource of all, your young people, are being eat up in a sausage grinder called war. And you just can't become prosperous. You can't continue to operate in a free society if you're in 180 countries all around the world. That's where we have troops now. We don't even have enough troops to protect ourselves. If someone was to attack us, we'd have to get these boys back home, where they should be anyway. Bring them all home, ring the country, and we'll be safe. And we'll have prosperous young people instead of killing their hopes and killing their dreams. I'd much rather have a country filled with prosperous patriots than cemeteries filled with dead heroes. So that's what this is really all about. Now I know, particularly when I was in Arizona recently, I was chided a little bit for calling it Stop All War. We needed to be more pro-peace. Well, we are pro-peace. The Libertarian Party's always been pro-peace. And there's no greater positive pro-peace message than to stop the wars. The problem with using that rhetoric, pro-peace, is that I'll remind you of another little history lesson. Back at the beginning of the Iraq War, George W. Bush declared that to be a war of peace. He adopted the pro-peace message and used it to send young people to die. Stop all war is not a message that they can co-opt and use it to send more people to war. Plus, there's a little bit of semantics thing here. You know, pro-peace is a wonderful statement, and it's beautiful to think about. But stop all war, there's a verb in there. It means we're doing something. We're not just talking about peace. We're giving the American people a chance to do something, to help us. And that's why my brochure says it right up front. I'm Lee Wrights, and I am not at war. War is an individual choice. And if enough of us say I am not at war, they can't have them anymore. When the people stop cooperating, that's what happened in Vietnam. And it's going to be the young people that do it again. What happened? Well, the college kids got tired of worrying about not being able to finish college and having to go fight a war. So they started protesting, raised all kinds of cane. And before you know it, they were bringing the troops home and the war was over. That's what it's going to take this time. It's going to take people rising up and saying, no, we've had enough. This is breaking us. You know, you talk about the economy, and the president has the authority over the budget. The best way he can improve the economy, it's not about cutting spending. It's not about freezing spending, because anything that's frozen can be thawed right back out again. We have to stop spending. And I don't mean just little stuff. I don't mean cutting out these poor things. You could do away with everything in the federal budget except the 3 entitlement programs, and your children and grandchildren would still be going into debt, because that's what's breaking this country. Social Security, Medicare, and the military complex. Those are the 3 big ticket items that are absolutely breaking this country. Literally, you could take away everything else, not pay for anything except those 3 things, and our children and grandchildren would still be going into debt. We have to stop these things. All these things have to come to an end. And that's why we use the word stop so much, because it's a verb. You're doing something. We need to do these things. Like I said, I'm glad to be here. I don't want to interrupt your meal any more than I have. You got to know that I'm a man of peace. Drive 1,200 miles up here in that kind of traffic and that kind of rain and not scream at one driver. No road rage, we're just driving along, just happy as we can be. It's hard for me to be at peace, because as many of you know, six years I served on the LNC, 3 terms. The reason I served there is because I was known as a warrior, fighting for the members of this party, fighting for what's right, and trying to keep us focused on the libertarian message. So I've got quite a reputation as a warrior. And I'm still a warrior. I get a lot of flack over this, well, you sound too much like a pacifist. I'm not a pacifist. By all means, I'm not a pacifist. Most libertarians I know are not pacifists. Most of them got guns. Try to break into their house, you'll find out how much of a pacifist they are. No, I'm not a pacifist. I don't have to kill somebody to prove it. And there's one thing I know about war. You don't teach people it's wrong to kill people by killing them. They just don't learn that lesson. You just make them angry and they want to kill more. We got to take a different approach in America. We got to return ourselves to the days of prosperity. And the days that America have been most prosperous have been during times of peace and deregulation. Those are the things that will bring prosperity back to all of us. And I hope that will happen someday. Now, Ken announced earlier that I'm actually seeking the presidential nomination for the LP. Well, that's not quite true yet. This is an exploratory. That's why I came here on my own dime, because I want to be close to the members. I want them to know what this message is. This is the message I'm willing to carry out through all the other states into the presidential election. I will stand up with anybody and tell them this is a libertarian message. This is what the libertarians are all about. Be proud of it, stand up for it, and we can bring a true, honest, peace and prosperity message to the American people. And I hope that you'll help me do that. So thank you for having me. You got a question over here?
Yeah, Lee, I don't know much about your background. Could you fill us in a little bit about what you've done in your life?
Well, I'm a military veteran myself, oddly enough. Served 5 years in the United States Air Force. I'm proud to say that I was able to do that without killing a single soul. I was a medical services technician. I was actually able to save some lives rather than take lives. So I've served my country. I've seen the effects of war close and up hand, because my term of service started right after Vietnam. We had a lot of, I saw more psychological injuries than I did physical injuries. And it's a shame what war does to young people. It changes their lives, and they have to live that way from then on. And it's something they can never get away from. They can't get it out of their heads. And it's almost a shame. I was in the construction business for many, many years. I was interested in third-party politics throughout this time. I just understood that two-party system was just as bad as one party. I realized that no matter what they said, Republican or Democrat, I was getting the same thing. Somebody's taking my money and giving it to somebody else. Found the Libertarian Party in the late 90s. I was living in North Carolina at the time. I joined the Libertarian Party of North Carolina. The first task I had there, I suppose, was I was the ballot access coordinator in 2000 in the third hardest ballot access state at that time. We had to raise well in excess of 100,000 signatures just to get on the ballot. I was successful in organizing the largest volunteer petitioning effort in the state's history. And we did achieve ballot access that year and have maintained ballot access in North Carolina ever since then. After that, I was elected vice chair of North Carolina, and I served in that capacity for 7 years. During that time, I was also elected to the LNC for my first term in 2002 in Indianapolis, served as an at-large representative. 2004 in Atlanta, I was elected as vice chair of the National Libertarian Party and served 2 years in that capacity. Took 2 years off. In 2008, I was called by the Dr. Mary Ruark presidential campaign, asked if I would be willing to be involved in that, and I became her campaign manager in the 2008 run. Went to Denver and took it to 6 ballots. 25 more votes and it would have been a different story in Denver. Also in that commission, I was elected to my 3rd term as an at-large member to the Libertarian National Committee and served there until 2010 in St. Louis. I ran again and was defeated, and I can honestly say that's one of the blessings that the Libertarian Party gave me, was to give me a respite from the National Committee. The National Committee is a good thing. It's necessary to perpetuate the party at a national level, but to expect 18 people to do what needs to be done can't be done. We need parties, state parties like this one and all around the country. You people are the ones that do the work of the Libertarian Party. The officials more or less just make sure that we don't go away in between conventions. But the people in this room are the ones that do the work for the Libertarian Party. And in rooms just like this all over the country and all these other states, it's the people on the ground that do the work of the party. And this is what I want to do, is I want to take your message, hopefully, to the national level and spread that throughout the country. We have a message that's not just for libertarians. This is an American message. There's a lot of Americans out there that are tired of war. They're tired of sending their children to die. They're tired of seeing other children die. There can be nothing more positive than stopping death.